Hey, Justy. Just here for coffee. You're the first one here. This is strange. I'm so used to the lead-in of having fox sounds doing sit and spin. That me like starting the show from zero, all on my own. It feels strange. I'm like, oh damn. Need to kind of wait for everyone to get here, join in, see what's going on. What do we got here? Let me adjust the settings a little bit. There we go. All right. Yes, it is time for the weekly meeting. I really should be doing a whole starting soon, live stream starting soon thing, but that's not what we're doing. That's not how I roll. It's like, if that's why I always, instead of doing a live stream starting soon sort of deal, I'm like either playing music or I'm saying shit that doesn't matter, so at least there's some sort of content, but, I would much rather, just hang out here than stare at a screen that says live stream starting soon. Yeah, we know. Hey, William Morancy. Oh, you took the day off from streaming, huh? Well, this is the day that you're supposed to just be playing Meat Mountain on a loop the entire time you're streaming and just constantly like talking about it. It is a big day for the mashup community. It's like, holy shit. It's like, it's Friday. It's the last Friday of May. It's the last weekend before Pride Month. Every month is Pride Month here at Booty Mashup, but we go a little extra hard for June. So it's the end of May. So this is actually prom weekend. We are doing the Booty Mashup prom tonight with DJs Airson and PDS Mix. They're going to be your chaperones. Although I think PDS Mix is going to be gunning for prom king. It's one of those. We've been doing prom forever because, prom we originally built it as a prom for the rest of us. If you had a shitty prom, like growing up, or you didn't get to go to prom, or, your prom date was horrible for whatever reason, we believe in second chances here at Booty Mashup. So it's like, it's a prom for the rest of us. Maybe you didn't get to actually go to prom with, like, say you were gay, but you weren't out of the closet yet. Although I think that really happens a lot less these days, because the youths got it going on for sure. Kids, you have no idea how good you have it these days. Back in my day, it was much harder to be gay and go to prom. Sadly. We fuck shit up in our own way, though. I went to 4 different proms. Indeed, 4 different proms. But I never actually went to my own senior prom. Hey, Pomme de Terre. Welcome. Thanks for rating. Thanks for coming on over. Both of you. But, DJ Time. That's right. The Booty Mashup prom was the very first booty party you ever DJ'd. God, 2010. That was 11 years ago, but it feels like you've been with us for like 20 years. But anyway, yeah, I went to 4 different proms, believe it or not. One of them was a junior prom, but that doesn't really count. But like all the other proms were like major proms. But for the other person, I blew off my own high school's prom to road trip from Cleveland to Chicago to hang out with our theater, our our school play, our school musical, our high school musical. I was in the high school musical, and the director and his wife had just moved to Chicago. And so we were like, we're going to come visit you, because they had an open invitation. I was like, oh, come visit us, kids. And we're like, we're going to do it. We're going to blow off prom and go to Chicago. And we saw Cats and hung out, and it was a pretty damn amazing trip and worth it to skip prom because I hated those people anyway. But I loved getting dressed up and going to other people's proms. But I wasn't transgender. I mean, I was transgender back then, but I wasn't out as transgender. Don't even think I was, as the kids say, I was an egg back then. So I didn't know, I wasn't wearing a prom dress. So Booty Mashup Prom is the opportunity for me to wear a prom dress. And I love it when we do the party in real life, because I have a really, really, really ugly prom dress with like a giant bow, and it's like this red taffeta. It's all scratchy. It's ridiculous. So anyway, yes. So it is prom weekend. You won't see me. You're going to see Airson and PDS Mix. And of course, the Dance Commander Disco. This is one of Dance Commander Disco's favorite themes. I know they are getting definitely dressed up for prom. And then tomorrow night, we have a special guest. I love having guest DJs on our channel in the same way that I used to book guest DJs to come to booty mashup parties in LA or San Francisco. I love that we, because we probably can't really afford to fly anyone out, at least for probably the first few months. But I love being able to have guest DJs here on the Twitch channel. It's the next best thing to bringing them out to an actual party. So tomorrow we have Lewis Wake from Scotland is going to be doing a special guest DJ set, and I really need to remember to kind of reach out to more people and be like, let's do more guest DJ sets. I really love having this platform to be able to offer budding DJs and producers an opportunity to DJ an 100% mashup set, which a lot of DJs don't ever actually get to do because there just aren't, they just don't have your local mashup party. That's apparently not a thing. Even in 2021, it is still not a thing. So yes, Lewis Wake hype. And speaking of hype, oh my God, Mark Johnson's in the chat. William Morancy's in the chat. It has been a banner day for brand new mashup albums. William Morancy just dropped Meat Mountain. Mark Johns just dropped KM, which is a Kylie Minogue mashup album. We also have Mash of the Titans 10, which is the 10th album in the Mash of the Titans series, which is always very high quality mashups. And then that damn White Panda album finally came out. If you guys follow me on social media or follow Booty Mashup on social media, I used to be a music journalist, like a legit music journalist. I wrote music articles about bands, and other art and album reviews and things like that. I wrote for a couple different newspapers in the Bay Area. So I haven't done that in years, but I love putting that hat on and being like, I'm a music journalist, totally have my, what's the movie? Almost Famous. Have my Almost Famous moment, though, writing about, because I would interview bands and things. It was mostly, believe it or not, I became a music journalist. Because I love music, but really it was because when I'd first moved to San Francisco, I was dirt poor, but I still wanted to go to shows. I wanted to go to clubs. I wanted to go see bands play. I wanted to get free albums. And a friend of mine, or actually a friend of a friend, did this up in Seattle. She was a music journalist, and she was like, oh, yeah, I can send you a whole list. I can get you hooked up. And she did. She got me on the mailing list of a bunch of record companies, and I was the art director for a LGBT newspaper at the time. And I talked to the arts and entertainment editor, and I'm like, can can I write an article about, this band or this, it was all from a queer perspective, but it was pretty exciting in the queer music scene back then. Queercore was just bubbling up, and there was always something to write about. And so that's how I became a music journalist, and I loved it. So anyway, I did a review of the White Panda album. You can, dig into our Discord or go check it out on Twitter or Facebook, and you'll see what I had to say about it. And I'm sure my special guest on today's show will also have some things to say about it. Earl Binky's like, it was a great samples album. Yeah. I was really hoping, especially because I contributed to the Kickstarter, that there would maybe be 2 versions of the White Panda album. That there'd be one that was like the whole mega mix girl talk style that he released, where there's really only like about a minute and a half. It's sort of like Titus Jones' Will It Mash, or Titus Jones's Mashup Power Hour, where it's just these like 1 minute chunks of mashups. So it was like, hey, this works, and then move on to the next thing. And then I thought there would be like a second album that is like, okay, here are the full length versions, especially for DJs like myself and my team, that we could play in a club. Because admittedly, a lot of White Panda's stuff is very much in the booty mashup wheelhouse, very pop friendly, mixes throwback with current, and very just a pop, very friendly for a pop party. But quite frankly, there's not much on that album that has not already been done by people in the mashup scene, or very similar tracks. I've already been kvetching with. I love geeking out about mashup culture, and that there are not really a tremendous amount of people out there that have the same level of knowledge and passion and history with the mashup scene, like dating back, like nearly 20 years, as this person who I'm going to be bringing onto my show. His name is Tim. He also goes by Instamatic, DJ No-No, Captain Obvious, Real Finger Trouble. He has many aliases. He runs a long-running podcast called the Radio Clash, where he often will showcase mashups. Not always, but often. But more importantly, for me, being so involved in mashup culture, he runs a thing called the Bootleg Archive. And you might be like, what's the Bootleg Archive? And you would not be wrong to ask that question, because back in the day, especially back in the UK, where the roots of the modern mashup scene really kind of began in the early 2000s, the Brits, they all called these mashups, what we now know as mashups, they called them bootlegs. They called them bootlegs because they were all illegally done, like the pirate flag. There's a pirate logo, pirate symbol in our logo for a reason. Mashups are all illegally done for the most part. We just got a DMCA violation dinged on our Twitch channel because, really, we could have played the original and we still would have gotten a ding. It's not because we're specifically playing mashups, but we've always been pretty bootleg style, and mashup culture is, we're mashing up these songs without anyone's permission, without any regard for copyright clearances. It is audio fan fiction, and not sanctioned, not cleared, no copyright clearances. So yes, they called them bootlegs, as a tip of the hat to the illegal nature. So Tim started the Bootleg Archive, which is basically a mashup archive. So we're gonna chit chat about that. Let's get him on the Skype. Where I had this all set up, and now there it is. Okay, let's give Tim a call, and let's shoot the shit. Hey, hello. Welcome, Tim,
Hello.
aka Instamatic. Welcome to the weekly meeting. Although I'm now starting to think that maybe I should go back to calling it the what we originally called this show, which was Mashup Talk. Where I always had guests, and then I kind of stopped having guests. But I'm really enjoying having guests on the show again. And you, like, this is kind of like a bit of a big day in mashup culture. 4 albums drop. There's a lot going on in mashup culture, and who else can I geek out with? but you, someone like you.
Yeah, I think it should be called "Don't Slag Off White Panda Too Much."
I mean, you and I chit chatted a little bit about this. It's like I really we have other shit to talk about. It's like you and I have both been. I mean, I think probably been involved in mashup culture just a little bit longer than me, simply by virtue of the fact that you lived. Do you still live in London?
Yeah, I live on the outskirts of London.
Okay, so
Out
I
of
mean,
London.
you were at ground zero of the modern mashup movement, as like circa 2001, 2002 in the UK, where like the first time that mashups really started having like a critical mass of people being able to like, oh hey, we can make these things because the software tools are now suddenly available, and we've got an outlet for them because MP3 blogs and file sharing all became a thing all at like this one point in time, and you were there pretty much at the beginning of it.
Pretty much. Although there are people like I know Ian Fondue has just released a mashup today, and he was part of Fondue Meltdown. So there are people who were there kind of in 2001. I was sort of listening end of 2001 to mashups. I discovered is it Warm Bitch? I've said this many times about Girls on Top.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Richard
I
X,
always
Warm
ask
Bitch.
people, right, what's the first mashup you ever heard? So what is it? Girls on Top, which is actually an alias for
Richard X.
Richard X. And I don't know if you guys, especially in America, I'm not sure anyone would know who Richard X is, but Richard X went on to become a fairly well-known producer in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He worked with Liberty X, or one of Liberty X, and also Sugar Babes.
Yeah, all those
And he
early.
actually got to make. He's one of the few people who actually got to make his mashup as a real thing.
Yeah, that
with the
was
Sugar Babes.
that was the Sugar Babes, right?
People like me, or friends versus friends.
Which was originally a mashup of Adina Howard and Gary Newman. And then basically he got to produce the Sugar Babes, for those who don't know, kind of like a contemporary of the Spice Girls. Didn't quite make it over here to the US, but were huge in the UK. They basically like sang a cover of it.
Yeah.
And then so it was the Gary Newman song also a cover? So
No, Gary Newman was totally down with sampling.
Oh, nice. Okay.
He's a nice guy. I haven't exactly met him, but I've seen him at Depeche Mode concert, and he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah. So,
And apparently, Richard X then went on to produce, but he got into trouble because he wanted to work with the record labels that he previously mashed up or bootlegged, and they refused. At least one refused to work with him because of his past.
oh, really? Which is it's interesting that, I mean, you and I have seen the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of mashup culture, like being cool, and mainstream media and record labels sort of embrace it, and then they dial it back, and suddenly, especially in the UK, it's not cool anymore. And now it feels, correct me if you don't feel this way, but it definitely feels like right now there is another wave, like a fairly big wave happening in the mashup scene.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was just listening to the Mark John's Carly album, which is solid. I was listening to William Morancy's Meat Mountain, which is very different. I know it's not really booty club, but it got some really good stuff.
But
in it.
I like the weird stuff,
Yeah,
it's like that's what the beginning of the night and the end of the night is for.
Yeah, and so I mean that's those kind of dropping on one day. I haven't listened to the Panos T yet. I've listened to the the White Panda,
Right.
and we're moving on.
Moving on. It is what it is.
This is Tim's review. Tim's review is this. Oh, it's disappearing, isn't it?
Yeah. But but yeah, and it's like, and this is on top of a whole series of mashup albums that have just been like consistently coming out, and just the scene in general. Like, you know, you look at people like DJ Cummerbund, who are like constantly going viral on TikTok and YouTube. Yep. You know, look at people like a YouTuber like Adam Music, One Board Jew. You know, like there's definitely the YouTubers that are bubbling up, and they're starting to get media attention.
Well, it's interesting because I was talking on Discord with Mixmaster Stel, because we were talking about, I mentioned Bootleg Archive, and he was saying, "Oh, that's for not commissioned remixes," and I went, "Aha!" Well, actually, because I know of at least 3 or 4 white label mashups that were actually requested or even put out by the record labels. There is this weird kind of like unspoken rule that white labels are illegal,
right?
And some of them, especially in early mashup times, there were some bands that went, "Oh, we want in on that," and record labels paid for them to be pressed.
I mean,
but under the counter.
Yeah, I'm sitting on still right now like 100 booty mashes up Lady Gaga CDs. I mean, that were paid for by Interscope, you know, and but it was all very like on the box. It doesn't even say Interscope; it says Inner Scope. You know, but they paid for it.
It was very much under the counter, but it happened. And so to say that, oh, Bootleg Archive is just these mixes is not completely correct. Some of them are really even weirder, grey, not in grey area, white to grey, I don't know. So somewhere on that spectrum.
So explain for the people who don't know, what is the Bootleg Archive?
The Bootleg Archive is a attempt to preserve mashup culture, or bootlegs, or bastard pop as it was called, and keep it all in a place where it won't get taken down, hopefully. Please don't sue me. But we have backups. And it's now on the Internet Archive. Internet Archive got interested and have backed up a whole load of it. So a lot of it will hopefully not get ever taken down. And the idea is to preserve those things that disappeared off the internet. And even stuff like 5-10 years ago has disappeared.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, also there was a bit of a Lobster Dust talks about this quite a bit because he's had issues. DJ Schmoley also. There was like this period of time, you know, like about 10 years ago, really, the early 2010s, where it felt like there was a bit of a purge. People's YouTube channels were getting copyright struck. People's Facebook pages, people's websites. I mean, I know haven't you had issues with your ISP with like cease and desist letters?
Yeah, repeatedly. It's interesting I was listening to Kylie because my first ever cease and desist was Kylie. She put Slow, the acapella, on the officially released CD, and then they went and cease and desist anyone who dared use it.
Which,
it's like, why?
Like, record labels put the studio acapellas out there so people like us will mash it up and remix it. I
wasn't alone. I think Soundhog got one, I got one. It was all at the same time. They just went through anybody who used it. And so, my first website had to be taken down, and then I went to another ISP. But also, recently, I've had the podcast cease and desist over an original track, George Michael B-side. And also, photographers are some of the worst.
Oh, yeah.
Don't ever use...
we had to. I got nailed. I mean, it's so crazy. It's like there's so many audio mashups on our website, but I've actually had copyright trolls come after me for some of the booty mashup flyers.
Was it Copy Track?
That does sound familiar.
Yeah, Copy Track. If anyone is listening, if you get approached by Copy Track, don't panic. Ignore them. Don't talk to them. They don't have any jurisdiction. They won't take you to court. Especially if you're outside the United States. But even if you're not in the United States, no one's ever been taken to court by them. Okay. So they basically try and shake you down. They tried to shake me down for €200.
Yeah, I think I ignored that one. There was another one though that I did end up paying. It was like Image something. I forget what they were called, but it's so frustrating because you know what the image was? It's the famous photo of David Bowie on the Aladdin Sane cover with the lightning bolt that you've seen. Like, you've seen that image everywhere, like on bootleg t-shirts and coffee mugs and just everything.
Well, what was annoying about mine is Tony Wilson, and the guy that did it, he says he's a socialist on his Twitter. He's quite a famous photographer. I forget his last name, Kevin Cummins, and he, I tried to talk to him on Twitter and he ignored me.
Yeah.
But I spoke to the organisation and they weren't trolling. They actually had been, as far as I could tell, hired by him to do so.
Right.
So he was sort of going into this thing, oh, I'm so socialist, yeah. But the thing is, it's a picture of Tony Wilson, and it was when he died. So there was a kind of a newsworthy aspect. And it was just like, really? And it'd been up there since 2007. And then that happened last year. And it's like, what? It's been up there for ages. So I just took it down.
Yeah, I mean, usually
what you take it down, put in something else, and then they haven't got any. They can't have a go at you. If you leave it up, then they might.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I see people in the chat pod talking about SoundCloud too. Yeah, SoundCloud was another God, don't put. I mean, I remember when we redid our website and our web developer was like, why don't you just put everything on SoundCloud? It's such a great resource for people can share your tracks. And I'm like, because in 5 years, I don't want to have like a shit ton of dead links on the Booty Mashup website because they were all SoundCloud links.
You know? I mean, I think that's about the time where because I had a break from doing the podcast in 2014. A lot of that sort of stopping. Another retiring, I do a lot of retiring and then coming back. And it was that time where it was like it did feel weird. Certainly the late noughties, it was Warner because Warner's had a fight with YouTube, so I had stuff. I was caught in that with my video mashups, and then it was the early tens. It was SoundCloud and just general hassle. And that's kind of why I stopped doing mashup videos because it's you just get so much grief over it's the video part.
Yeah, I have noticed lately, especially with I'm dealing with a lot more YouTube producers these days because that's obviously, I mean, YouTube is the number one place where people listen to and discover music. I mean, I think TikTok is probably, nipping at YouTube's heels, but like as far as like actually listening to full songs and listening to albums and listening to, the latest single, it's all YouTube. It's not It's not Spotify, it's not, Apple Music, it's YouTube. So, of course, if you're a mashup producer, that's where you want to drop your tracks. But yeah, I've heard so many people say, it was like, oh, I put the audio version up and it was fine. As soon as they upload the video, bam. Yeah.
But it's heartbreaking when you spend I used to spend weeks or months on a video. And it was just and all this sort of bringing in films and B-roll and sources that you wouldn't expect. Not just an A versus B, intercut.
Yeah.
And then it would be it would get taken down. You're going, ugh.
Well, that was a waste of a bunch of work. Yeah, exactly.
I know. So, I started hosting my own website. Vimeo was all right for a while, and then they started taking them down.
Yeah. I mean, this is the plight of what we do. I mean, it is other people's copyrighted material that we are, having fun with or, trying to put our own stamp on it. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to get into my head now. Like when you and I first got into mashups, there was definitely, I mean, you talk about the term bastard pop, where it's like taking pop music and bastardizing it and having your way with it and kind of being cheeky and fun with it. And I know recently we had a discussion in the Discord about the Crumple Bangers Discord about how that's now changing, and a lot of people are making mashups that are just pop versus pop. It's like, oh, I like this song, they just came out, and it's more of a fandom kind of way. It's not about making mashups because let me do something kooky. It's just more like, I want to do this. And I keep trying to figure, I keep trying to rectify that because it's so different from why I got into mashup culture, but I'm seeing the validity in it in the sense of you just want to put your own personal stamp on two songs you like.
I mean, I have issues with, I mean, not obviously you do whatever you want, but I have issues with pop versus pop in the sense of there isn't any kind of difference that, same with EDM versus EDM. If it doesn't read as a mashup, I don't think it is a mashup. Really.
Oh, well, I mean, I've had this discussion with other DJs who are like, it's two songs and you put them together and it's a mashup. And I'm like, yeah, technically it's a mashup. Technically it is. It's a mashup. But it's not what you go to a mashup party to hear, is it?
Yeah.
But I think that might be changing though, because now you have a whole generation of people who love mashups and they know the pop songs. They may recognize them as mashups, even if they're not necessarily super genre clashed.
But as I said on the Discord, you have to have a lot of in-depth knowledge of both tracks in that case.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the beauty of Bastard Pop and Crumple Bangers and some other things in genre clash is you just need to know one. And you kind of vaguely know that, oh, well, Carly Rae Jepsen shouldn't be with Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
You say, oh, I haven't heard that before. And so you have that casual knowledge, whereas I think you have to have a lot of really in-depth knowledge for a sort of modern pop versus pop mashup, which I think might limit its wider appeal. There might be very niche, or not say niche, I mean, it might be very big, but like very specific fandoms will like.
Well,
but I don't think necessarily it's going to be played on the radio.
No, possibly not.
Unless it gets officially released.
Yeah. Although I will say this, as you know, I am in the middle of a massive archive project going through my entire hard drive, re-tagging everything, and then I'm sending them to you. I'm sending these tracks to you, so you can put them. Well, I just started 2005. I needed to take a break, and so I've still got like 8 years.
2002 and 2003.
Yeah, because you go up to the bootleg archive is basically 2001 to what's your cutoff date?
Well, there's no cutoff point for the early stuff,
right?
Whatever.
Okay.
I mean, obviously there's a big debate about when that started. I don't want to get into that here. But then, it cuts off at 2014.
2014. Okay. Yeah. And so I'm still right now I'm still going 2005 through 2012 is what I'm working on now. And so, I've been digging through these old tracks, and I will say this whole boring pop versus pop or same genre mashups. We've been talking about it on this channel and in the Discord, and it's been a conversation. But in fact, this is not a new phenomenon.
Oh no.
Even back in the day, because as I'm going through these tracks, I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is some drum and bass track mashed up with a jungle track. Wow. Or this is the Prodigy mashed up with the Chemical Brothers. It's like taking the two popular things from that time period, and it's just not very challenging. But at the same time, like I said, I'm trying to be open-minded about it, and I'm like, well, you know what, this still has a vibe. I could play this for a dance floor. And whereas I used to feel a little weird playing something that I felt was sort of just a generic pop versus pop mashup for a dance floor. Now I'm kind of like, well, shit. If this is sort of if there's a whole subset of people where it's that's what they're there for mashups, well, then, okay, I don't have to feel so icky playing what I feel to be mesh-ups, as Pomme de Terre likes to coin them much. I love that term, mesh-ups.
Well, I've done pop versus pop. I mean, Captain Obvious
was
all pop versus pop.
Right.
And it was very much trolling Booty at the time, and it worked.
Well, yeah, because this is what I mean, where it was I think especially amongst a little bit of the old school UK scene, especially, that's centered around the night Bastard, which happened in the early 2000s. Then a lot of you and a bunch of other bootleggers from the UK, we'd invite you guys over, and there was always a little bit of this US UK divide, where what we would do is, because we're catering to a pop loving audience, we would definitely skew a lot more mainstream than I think you guys did at Bastard, where you would you'd be playing crazy, children's television theme songs, but mashed up with drum and bass.
Definitely that, yeah, or kind of Crazy Frog mashed up with something. I mean, well before all of the Sound Clown things. Doing Thomas Tank Engine, Crazy Frog, DMX. These are all been done in the early noughties. These are not new things. Right. But it's so funny when people go, oh, Smash Mouth. And we're going, ugh, yeah, can we just get over the Smash Mouth thing?
But the thing is the reason that these tropes, first of all, the tropes get repeated because they're good songs that are easily mashed. The stems are out there, but also people aren't aware that it's been done before because mashup culture is so easily swept under the rug and disappears, I mean, which is why I love that you have the bootleg archive, so at least someone could point and be like, "Oh, here it is." But the thing is, it's like it's a bit of a deep dive. You really need to be committed.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem is the fact that I wanted to make it really simple because past projects, remember things like Culture Deluxe, CDX, KDX servers, and all that sort of stuff. They all failed because they couldn't keep it simple because they were like, we're going to have databases and it all goes wrong in the end. Well, so I have stayed currently with just with directories, which unfortunately means you have to know the artist name, producer name. And I'm thinking about what to do about that because it'd be nice to have a search, whatever. But the thing is, the more complicated you make it, I know the less future-proof it's going to be.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of my own database project as well, which really started off as an idea of like, I want to be able to have performers find tracks. Like, they want to lip sync a Kylie Minogue song. They could just type in Kylie Minogue and just like on my computer, my laptop, it would bring up all the Kylie Minogue things that are tagged. And it was like, this actually isn't as hard to do as I thought it was. So I'm like, yes. But I think the Booty Mashup database is still going to be probably a level of curation. And what you're doing is literal like archival work. You're literally trying to find like everything that ever got released from the scene.
Well, everything. I mean, there's probably a limit to
well, sure, but I mean, but I think that's great, though.
Well, we're trying to focus very much on the early stuff that's lost. I mean, like there's certain people like RIAA who's still out there, but all of his stuff is gone. So you know, we've been finding that, and Lionel Vinyl.
Yeah,
he did a mashup a day or a week.
Yeah, you know? And so much. I loved so much of his stuff. Still one of my all-time favorite Booty mashup sets ever. Granted, I think a lot of it's been colored by nostalgia and whatever booze I was drinking at the time. But like I just remember it being like it was like the first guest DJ set where I was like, yes.
Not mine.
No. I was like, he was hitting that sweet spot of like electro, like that was around the time of Electro Clash.
Well, that's the thing is, I think people forget how much. I mean, that's why when I was listening to them, because I went through and listened to everything while I was, doing the 2002, 2003, and I wasn't surprised necessarily, but it was so much Electro Clash.
Oh yeah,
Electro Clash covers, remix, and so much blurring between what was a remix, what was a mashup, what was a cover. And it makes it very hard to work out what should be on there.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. It sounds very mashup-y, but I'm not sure if it is a mashup.
Right.
And so that goes back to the whole thing about pop versus pop, although that's more of a kind of a different scene. I mean, Electro Clash wasn't really pop in that sense.
No. In fact, I've done retro Electro Clash events and have had people come up to me going like, oh my God, what is this? Thinking that it's brand new. And I'm like, this track's like 15 years old, now 20 years old, you know? So it's interesting because it never really broke through, like it was always like indie, it was always like indie level.
There was a famous story about, I'm trying to remember the name, the big Electro Clash act that bankrupted the Sisters label.
Fisher
Spooner.
Yeah.
This is just a big campaign. They were going to be the next big thing, the next big pop thing. They weren't. And that was the reason why Scissor Sisters had to change label because the label went under.
Yeah.
That was the point.
I mean, the music industry is so filled with so many things like that. But yeah, like definitely, like mashups are having, it's like they always take what's happening now. I mean, you and I can go through our respective mashup collections and hear what songs are being mashed up and probably just like say what year it is, just based on, it's like, especially in the early days, it was all the Eminem and Missy Elliott tracks and,
so many gossip folks.
Yes. And then, we're talking the late 2000s, so many Lady Gaga tracks, things like that.
Dead Mouse, which I noticed White Panda ends on Dead Mouse, and I'm going, not only have you stolen your whole look from Dead Mouse, you're ending on Dead Mouse.
Maybe it's an homage. Benefit of a
Yeah, but it was that
touch.
Cascade track, and I tried to mash that Cascade track, and I'm thinking, oh, this again. Oh, it's 2008.
Yeah.
But that's the point about that album is it has second track is a Slim Shady bootleg. I'm like going, is this 2003?
Yeah, I mean, the little review that I wrote was basically a little bit of frustration over, and I think this whole past year. Obviously, we've been in isolation. We've been, global pandemic. We're in lockdown. We're in quarantine, and yet I feel more connected with the mashup community. It feels like a community, and it
Yeah,
feels more like a community than it has since the early days when we all like kind of gravitated on like a few websites like Gaibo and stuff where there's a central place where we can kind of interact. We're still scattered to the winds here, but we are figuring out ways to meet up, and
yeah.
we're interacting more than I feel like the scene has interacted with in a long time.
The discords are a big part of
Yeah.
that. I was surprised when I went to the Crumple Bangers Discord which like a lot of people, like with Twitch, I was like, Twitch, really? Initially, and I was saying with Discords, I was like, Discords, really? Thinking they're more like Slack and very nerdy thing.
Yeah.
And I went on Crumple Bangers and was like, this is a bit like Gaibo, you
Yeah,
know.
definitely.
This has that sort of vibe.
Yeah, and you kind of like fell off of the mashup scene when Gaibo ended around like 2012 or so, didn't you? Didn't you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
you kind of had a break? See, Booty mashup never had a break, but it did make it harder to find mashups. But nowadays it's like, I know where to look. I've got my community, but that's the problem with the White Panda album. He's not connected to the community. Like anytime there's a new mashup producer, like that, I discover on YouTube or I discover on Bandcamp or something, I always reach out and I'm like, ooh, love your track. And now I reach out and I try to be like, hey, have you checked out this Discord or this group? You should push your tracks here. You should push your tracks there to try to bring them into, make them aware of a wider community, because I feel like it's weird because most, look, let's put it in a broader music standpoint. You're in a heavy metal band. Chances are you're going to know what the other heavy metal bands in your town are doing because you're playing with them. You know what's happening in the metal scene, and so on. But mashup culture seems like is a little less like that. Like there's so many producers who are like, I make mashups, and they're like completely unaware that anyone else is making the exact sort of mashups that they're making.
I think the very strength of mashups is its weakness. The strength was because it was Napster and Audio Galaxy and internet and MySpace and that sort of sharing. Means anyone do it,
Right?
And it spread it, but it also means that it spread it wide, and then it sort of becomes little pockets, and then they don't talk to each other. So it's kind of like how it succeeded, but also how it struggles, I think.
Yeah.
There isn't that central point, and someone was saying today on Twitter, "Oh, I miss Gaibo," and I was going, "Yeah."
Yes and no. I mean, although there's been a little bit of discord in some of the discords, and I was like, oh, I remember the drama of message boards. I was like, I don't miss that.
It's a family, but as Amy LeMay always says, it's a dysfunctional family.
Always. I mean, all scenes are like this. Whatever kind of subculture or even not so subculture, music scenes, pop culture scenes. Everyone's got like their little beefs, and
they're not. I've said this before. I'm not sure I've said it. I've not said it here. Is that the worst one I ever came across was the Bears, especially San Francisco
the Bears. Oh, the gay scene, the Bears. Yes.
Yeah. The early kind of mailing lists to do with them, all these alpha geeks that had real power issues,
Right.
and ever since then, because that was the sort of baptized by fire, every single scene I'll go, well, yeah, there's drama, but it's not as bad as that.
It's not as bad as gay drama.
Oh yeah. Oh no, get gay sort of 40, 50-year-old man that's been bullied all their life, and they get some power through kind of running a message list.
Right.
That is extreme. extreme scary power abuse that
Yeah.
I don't think happens in the mashup community.
Crafty Geek's got a interesting question. Thoughts on the rise of copyright-free Creative Commons? I gotta say, though, Creative Commons has been around for quite a while.
Oh,
I love it. I mean, Sound House Audio has like, a little dot you can click if various levels of what you want your track to be. If although most tracks on Soundhouse are mashups anyway, but the problem is you need to get like the power brokers on board, and that's a whole set of things that probably isn't going to happen. Everyone's looking for how they can get paid.
Well, not everyone. I mean, I use a lot of CC0 imagery on my blog now, and Pexels, and there are certain sites. Oops, sorry. There's certain sites that do CC0, and the people who don't want to be credited or just want credited but they don't want money. So that's quite good. If there was more CC0 audio sources.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think Creative Commons is good for illustration work and photography and stuff like that. But more visual mediums. But yeah, audio.
It's never taken off in that way, which is sad because I mean I've released sort of photography and things, visual things as Creative Commons.
Yeah.
Usually non-commercial because I don't really want a big corporate. It has happened. People have released images and then suddenly this big corporate has gone, oh well, that you can use commercial use, so they just suddenly slap it on their advertising campaign.
Yeah.
So I usually make sure it can't be used for commercial use without. Well, of course it can be. They can come talk to me, but
right.
Not without consultation.
And I love in the chat pod, Pomme de Terre. Yes, Soundhouse Audio, hosted in Canada. Same hosting services, Booty Mashup actually, which is and I think you are also is the Radio Clash blog and the Bootleg Archive. Are those hosted on a Canadian server?
Not yet.
Okay. Right.
At the moment they are on multiple servers because it's always a good idea. Everybody who has to go to this, spread it around, spread the domain on a separate thing. The domain is offshore. Domain is it's offshore-ish Bahamas, and then the actual servers are currently in the Netherlands. I think one is Germany.
Okay.
But yeah, I decided to get out of the States because they were in the States.
Yeah.
The copyright situation under Trump and before was not good. It was getting worse. It was kind of like after all the mega stuff, it was like, no, we can't be in. But yeah, I would like to go to. I'm looking at possibly moving to Canada.
Right. You mean moving your server to Canada?
No, not me. Although
I was like, I just always think of you as so London. So yeah, I can't picture you in anywhere else. So like the pandemic kind of like brought you out a little bit of retirement.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm curious what your perspective is as someone who's been in the scene, and then as you said, like you've had different phases of retirement. Yeah, it felt like you were pretty quiet for a while, at least in the mashup realm, anyway. And then pandemic happens, and you're now like back on the scene. What's it feel like? Like, what are the big changes from that you've noticed? Because I think for me, everything's sort of been gradual because I never left. But for you, it's like oh shit, what's everyone doing?
Well, I think the rise of YouTube and also the death of SoundCloud, and because you can post stuff on YouTube, you used to get a certain amount of. It's very hard to build an audience now without a existing kind of sort of fan base. So it's weird.
How does one build a fan base?
Yes.
And, I mean, it seems like you just keep posting shit and hope that one of them goes viral.
But having me knocked off, because I was knocked off iTunes for the podcast because of that George Michael B-side. And Spotify. So it's interesting watching how that kind of affects as well, because a lot of people don't go beyond, say, iTunes for podcasts.
Right.
And I feel that's the same way with certain things for mashups. Like people click on visual video things. They click on, videos and YouTube, but they don't seem to click on other things as much.
Right.
Not so much.
It really does depend on the platform. I mean,
Yeah.
it's which is, which is why everyone gravitated toward YouTube, or at least all the all the people who, I mean, I think so many of us in the old guard like kind of got scared off of YouTube because we all got our channels, like cut. But anyone who started posting mashups to YouTube around a certain time period in the early 20 teens kind of hit the sweet spot. I think it was after YouTube kind of worked out their
Yeah.
music copyright issues with the record labels. And now, those people have, built up. But then, but it is always interesting to see like the struggle of trying to be noticed,
Yeah.
And I mean, that even existed back in the day. I mean, there was that, you would see people like Go Home Productions and,
Yeah.
a few other people like get some attention here and there, maybe get signed, maybe get a project, get their mashups in a movie in the case of like Lobster Dust and Party Ben,
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of felt like nowadays everyone's like just trying to trick the algorithm.
Yeah, it's all about algorithms. Yeah. Yeah, definitely algorithms, and TikTok seems to be a big one as well.
Yeah.
Kind of showing what you do, which I haven't really done much of this. Like showing your Ableton window or dancing cutely in front of your Ableton window. In the case of one particularly large mashup producer who's made a thing about dancing.
Who's that? Cummerbund?
Morphous, because of course.
Oh, Amorphous, yes.
Yeah, dancers.
Yep.
And I think in his case he's talented, but I think in his case it was probably half and half, half and half him sort of dancing and and having something visual,
Right.
as mashups as well. And I think the visual aspect is a big thing, which is ironic since, again, as we said, the videos, the ones I think get struck down. So I think I chose the wrong time to start doing videos in like 2008.
Yeah.
I then stopped doing them around 2012, 13. I've done a few since, but yeah.
It's never too late. It's never too late, Tim. Jump back into it.
Oh, well, it was my job. That's what I did. And I kind of, I fell out of loving kind of doing video and animation because that stopped being my job.
Right. Okay. So then, yeah, it's sort of, it is kind of amazing how many mashup producers actually work in like Lobster Dust, Titus Jones, Jupiter Gatling. I think Will Battle also. They all do video editing stuff.
Yeah. That was more of an animator than an editor, but I did do some editing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I think I was probably the first producer to use Avid.
Oh wow!
for a mashup video, everyone's going, "What?" And I think I probably was one of the first to use After Effects as well.
Yeah.
Now people are using it all over the place, but I used to be like, "Oh, use After Effects." People are like, "Oh no, I want to use Vegas," and I'm going, no.
Yeah.
I mean, Vegas it's all right, but it's not a great quality. So I was like,
right. After just checking in on the chat pod. By the way, I just want to shout out everyone in the chat pod. Thanks everyone for being here. I always, this is like I used to tease PDS Mix because it was always like, old guys talking about mashups, and I feel a little bit like, it's like grandma and grandpa talk about mashups, the good old days, but they weren't necessarily the good old days. I mean, I think you think of them maybe. I think your glasses are maybe a little bit more rose colored than mine.
No. When it comes to things like the aforementioned forum, very much not so.
Okay.
I said recently, and I've said this recently, saying that Discords are a welcome thing because they are the kind of toxic stuff which would probably get you banned nowadays.
Oh yeah.
And some of the stuff that people said and did, and you know, so it is. I'm glad that's gone.
Yeah, it does seem like internet forum culture from back then, we're talking like late 90s, early 2000s, internet was pretty new. And I mean, we think of internet culture these days as being toxic, but it's always been that way.
Oh, yeah.
And at least there with a forum, nowadays it's like, moderators try to keep everyone in check. And, I think it was a little bit more, it was a little bit more of a fiefdom back then.
Yeah.
with individual message boards. So yeah, Gaibo definitely had its share, especially me. I mean, I always felt like we were the ugly Americans coming in and capitalizing on mashup culture.
Well, I got that because I went to DJ Booty, and they were like, "How did you get that?" Really like, "Oh, you're not good enough to do that," and it'd be like, "I asked, I just asked you," and they were like, "What?" And I was like, I just asked you. What's your problem? I just asked, and they kept the people in the UK were like, "How did you get that?"
Yeah, well, I think
asked.
yeah, back then there was this, I think there was this perception that like Booty Mashup was this like, I mean, big sort of corporate thing, and not really realizing it was like, this is a mom and pop operation. Like, it's a party because we love mashups, and especially back then we were just like, oh my god, you like mashups too? Come play our party. Nowadays I think I'm probably a little bit more like, let me hear a DJ set before.
Yeah.
Whereas I was just like, come on over.
Yeah. And the cherry bar, I love the cherry bar.
Oh, the cherry bar, god, that was tiny. I mean, it wasn't that tiny. I mean, that place held like, I mean, we crammed at one point. We crammed 500 people in there, but
Wow.
it was that was miserable. That's also 500 people over the course of a night, but kind of more like held to 250 people. But yeah, these days it's like it's the mashup scene feels alive and well. Like it's as I mean,
the kids are all right.
I would say it's as strong as it's ever been. And like for those of you who tuned in to my listening party on Wednesday, you know that I Recon Thus is in the chat pod right now, had kind of like broken down what they saw as mashup culture amongst like 8 different categories, which obviously you could divide this up into so many subgenres, like any kind of music scene. But I thought it was really, really kind of cool how it's like, oh, these are all different things and distinctive, and there are scenes for each of them, and that's okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I listening to the albums today, I was like, yeah, no, it is a good time.
Oh yeah, like especially today, you could easily put each of the albums that drop today into one of those categories. Like William Moranci, I think is the more sound clown.
Yeah.
White Panda, definitely the more mega mix.
Girl Talk version 2.
Yeah, pretty much. Mark Johns would be in that like pop versus pop fandom one, at least with that particular album.
Yeah.
And Mash of the Titans is the club banger, the EDM category, I think. Maybe a party, booty mashup pop party level as well. Depends on the track. But yeah, it's been a good day for mashup culture. It's been a good year.
Yeah. A lot of people have come out of retirement.
Well, you just retired with your album Black Block. And and I'm thinking, okay, well, Tim's done. No more mashups from him. You did all the Fleetwood Mac mashups you wanted to make, and made a big deal about it on your blog. And then next thing I know, it's just like you just keep putting tracks out. How's retirement going, Tim?
Oh, it's going great. I like being an undead mashup producer. Yeah. A zombie mashup producer. I've been to this phase. It's one of the reasons why I didn't say finally, oh, this is a goodbye. I thought it might be, but I kind of knew that you can never. It's like the Hotel California.
Well,
mashup scene is Hotel California. You can never completely leave.
I mean, but usually people leave for like maybe a couple months. I mean, it felt like you were never gone.
I mean, it was that damn Montero a cappella.
Oh well,
I was like, this is not going to get the best of me, and so I kept doing them and going, well, I'm going to at least try and get this right, and then I'll stop. And then the challenges started on Crumple Bangers, and I'm like going, oh, okay, I remember the Gaibo challenges, and I said, oh, we'll have a go, but I won't release any of these, and I started to get good stuff from them, and I was like, oh, okay, I haven't retired then.
And those challenges are awfully fun. I do love, I love seeing, I haven't participated in any producing anything yet, but it's been really fun to then suddenly, it's like, why, when I go on my downloading rampages, it's like, oh, why are there a bunch of, Montero mashups? Oh, Crumple Bangers did a thing.
Why all these reverse mashups with using?
Oh,
reverse
right, yeah, that too,
why
where they
so
flip and so yeah, like I said, the mashup scene is healthier. I would garner to say that it's healthier than it's ever been.
I think I remember the early days. I think there's not there's a big media buzz there was.
Yeah.
I think yes. I think for a long time. I think the worst time I found is the time when I stopped doing them. Yeah, those mid tens. The kind of the time I stopped doing the podcast. Yeah, it was all multi-mashers, and I hate multi-mashers with a vengeance.
Yeah, well, that was because the earworm United State of Pop went viral in 2009, and then a bunch of other people like Mashup Germany. And like several people started doing the end of the year mega multi-mash.
Yeah.
And then everyone just started doing that. And it's like, these things, by the way, I mean, they're really creative and a lot of them are interesting, but it's dance floor poison. Like you can't play these for a dance floor.
Yeah.
People just like, there's no sing-along moment. They don't know where the song's going. It's like, audiences hate it.
Well, that's also girl talk, I suppose. The rise of girl talk and that sort of medley approach where you drop in little bits, and I'm not massively opposed. Well, I am kind of opposed to it, but kind of. We come from medley culture, so mashups do come partly from disco medleys,
right?
But it's kind of, yeah. I just feel like, as I said in my review on Twitter over the White Panda, it's like pushing a Pavlov's bell. It's like ding, 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 nostalgia. Remember this? Remember this? Remember this?
Yeah.
Oh look! Here's the Sweet Dreams riff. Oh look! Do you remember XLF? Do you remember? And it's like having someone in your ear just shouting, "Oh, I remember this!" And it's like, no, can we have something that's a bit of a I know it sounds very hippie, a journey, a narrative, something, that doesn't just keep changing as if like you've got ADHD.
Well, for all you know, all these people feel that it is a journey. You know, I love your face, Tim.
I wonder if I can do my side.
Let's see your side. There we go. All right. Well, we need to get going because it is, as I said earlier at the top of the show, it is prom night. But I'm so glad that that you were able to jump in. I knew you and I would have a lot to talk about.
I'm surprised. I'm glad we didn't just spend it slugging off White Panda.
Oh God, no. We can do that. I might actually. I was gonna do.
What decade is this?
I was gonna do a White Panda versus Mash of the Titans show on Wednesday for my listening party, but now I think I'm gonna do here's 4 albums that came out on Friday. Let's just mix it all up. Here's yeah.
I mean, certainly that Mark Johns 100 Degrees Dua Lipa versus Kylie. If I was DJing at Pride, that would be like,
oh my God, right.
Go to track. That is just that needs to be heard.
Yeah.
Sadly, because of the pandemic, I don't know how many Prides are going to happen. I mean, ours is going to happen in September. I know yours is happening at the end of
ours is the one in San Francisco. I'm
You
not even quite.
Or?
Well, there's a bunch of Pride events happening all over the city. Including one at the ballpark. But as far as a parade and a bunch of people at Civic Center, that's not happening.
Okay. Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of the cases that is the case.
Yeah.
I think London is going to be September, but it's exactly the track that should be played on a float on Pride.
Right.
Dua Lipa, Kylie. It's just it's perfect.
Stuff the gays love. Well, Tim, thanks so much for being here. It was great chatting with you.
Good to speak to
and
you.
Everyone, check out the Bootleg archive. Tim, if you're in the chat, pop it in the chat, and we got to get prom going. So thanks for being here, Tim.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Good to speak to you. Bye.
All right. Tim, aka Instamatic, aka DJ No, Captain Obvious, and here on Twitch, he is often in the chat pod as Real Finger Trouble. Definitely old school mashup scene. It's always fun to catch up with him. So thanks everyone for being here. And it is time. It's time to to celebrate prom. I think we're starting off with happy hour. It might be a little bit of a prom themed happy hour, or maybe it's going to be happy hour and then prom. Actually, I don't know. Hold on. Let me let me get ready to text. DJ Airson is going to be kicking us off, and then PDS Mix will be right after, and then tomorrow be sure to be here. We got DJ Forge filling in for DJ Innate. DJ Forge will be doing our Mashups Rock, and then Lewis Wake, and then I'm gonna be waking up early in the morning to do to do the set after Lewis Wake. It's early for me. If you're in America, then it's gonna be a good old classic late night set. So anyway, thanks everyone for being here. So appreciate you being part of the channel, and let's get ready to go to prom. Woo!